that what you feel, with someone you may have a different view than your own, then let's talk to one another. Let's reason with one another on a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man. A live broadcast every Sunday at 12 noon on TV 33, FM 88.1 WHPR, and Comcast Cable. So why don't you call and let's discuss the Holy Bible, and if you have one, the Holy Quran, and come to an agreement about the Holy Scriptures and their true meaning. So tune in to a scriptural discussion with the Son of Man every Sunday at 12 noon right here on TV 33, FM 88.1 WHPR, and Comcast Cable. You can call in live on the air at area code 313-868-4336, 868-0342, and 868-0351. Of course, the area code is 313. That's 313-868-4336, 868-0342, and 868-0351. And now let's go live with the scriptural discussion with the Son of Man.
In the name of Allah, the Beneficent, the Most Merciful, the Truthful, and the Most Just, I greet all of you once again who are within the sound of my voice with the greeting words of peace from the Lord of the worlds. Allah's Salam Alaikum. There are many things that we want to share with you tonight. I want to remind you of something. Before you take advice from people, just because something sounds like it's good advice, don't necessarily mean it's good advice. Oftentimes, people will give you advice having an agenda other than your well-being in mind. And so, it's like what Jesus had to say concerning what he had to say concerning evil. I'll show you what I'm talking about. Where he told the people, resist not evil. Just a moment, I'll find it.
Matthew chapter 5, verse 39.
In the book of Matthew, chapter 5. And this is I'm going to start at the 38th verse. It says, you have heard that it hath been said, an eye for an eye, and a tooth for a tooth. But I say unto you, that you resist not evil, but whosoever shall smite thee on thy right cheek, turn to him the other also. And if any man will sue thee at the law, and take away thy coat, let him have thy cloak also. And whosoever shall compel thee to go a mile, go with him twain, meaning two. Give to him that asketh thee, and from him that would borrow of thee, turn not thou away. You have heard that it hath been said, thou shalt love thy neighbor and hate thine enemy. But I say unto you, love your enemies, bless them that curse you, do good to them that hate you, and pray for them which despitefully use you and persecute you, that you may be the children of your Father which is in heaven. For he maketh his sun to rise on the evil and on the good, and sendeth rain on the just and on the unjust. For if you love them which love you, what reward have you? Do not even the publicans the same? And if you salute your brethren only, what do ye more than others? Do not even the publicans so? Do they not do so also? Be ye therefore perfect, even as your Father which is in heaven is perfect. Now, the Holy Quran answers that that question that you may have before, excuse me, before you even ask it. Is it warm in here to you all? Yes. Turn the arrow. Put it on 74. And I want to talk with you a little on this. To make sure that you understand really what's being said. I hear people all the time say, so and so made me do that when they did this. So and so ain't inside your head ordering you to do nothing. The proper statement would be, so and so provoked that response from me. Well, that's what you can do with animals. You can provoke responses from them. Human beings are not animals. Even though you were taught that in science class, it's time for you to learn the truth. You can't on the one hand say you are a scientist, and on the other hand, neglect reason and facts that point you to a truth that is undisputable. Huh? Is that safe to say? Okay. What animal in creation do you know of that plants and reaps and puts up things and builds its own storehouses and knows how to preserve its own food and all of that kind of thing? What animal in creation do you know of that can do that? If you could just find one animal that could do that, then you could compare man to that animal and say, yes, man is an animal He's just a little more sophisticated than this creature here. But man is an animal. But man is not. You can't compare man to nothing but man. An eagle is a bird. It's an animal. And it's like a hawk. It's like a chicken. There's other creatures. And the ostrich don't fly, but I think he got wings, don't he? And I don't think he flies. He might fly. I don't know. Throw him off a cliff, he might fly. But he stand a better chance than you. Do you understand? He didn't have them wings for nothing. But the point is, it's time that you learn the truth. You have been taught error. You have been taught error at best and lies at worst. And it's time that you learn, as the Holy Quran says. It answers why Jesus said what he said. In the 17th chapter of the book of the Holy Quran, most people don't know what it means when you hear some of the scientific community. A lot of them don't know. Where it says man is a creature of habit. You've heard that before? Have you thought about what it means? Many of you, you hear a thing and you are quick to agree when you haven't really understood what you were agreeing to. And you need to never be ashamed to acknowledge your ignorance. Unless you desire to remain a fool. You notice when I was talking to that brother that called himself G-Man, he sounded like a Caucasian, didn't he? Did he ever say, I'm not a Caucasian? But the point is, as we were talking, it became evident that he wasn't being quiet listening to me like when he was talking, I was listening. He was just thinking of what he was going to say whenever I got through making noise. Do you understand? So, it's like people, they never even thought about the fact that Jesus already knocked down the lie that you calling him the Son of God. And when someone asks you who's the Son of God, you say Jesus. And Jesus already said, don't no man know who the Son is but the Father. Now you can't have it both ways. Either Jesus was lying when he said no man know who the Son is but the Father, which tells you that he didn't consider himself that one that the book says, this day have I begotten you. Because otherwise he should have said, don't nobody know who I am but my Father. And don't nobody know who my Father is but me and him to whom I reveal him. But you don't listen. You're so used to, that's the one thing that in order to make a man a willing slave, you have to first some kind of way trick him into trusting everything you say. How do you do that? You set up a school system and you write all of the books, and you put all of the understanding that he get from you. You can prophesy about his actions if you're the only one feeding him knowledge. You know what he gonna do before he know. It's time that you be free. It's time that you see the world around you for what it is. It's time that everybody get a good look at what people been hiding. You see, that's the very nature of the sunlight. And the more you notice, the more I talk to G-Man, the more people started to see that he really didn't know what he was talking about. The only one who couldn't see that was him. Because that's what happens to anyone who stands out in the light of the sun and is busy staring at the sun, trying to find some dark spots or whatnot in the sun, instead of looking at what the sun is shining light on, they staring at the sun. When they get through staring at the sun, they can't see nothing else. Their retina is permanently damaged. Do you understand? So, the worst thing you can do is go against God's word. He said, we sent no messenger, but that he should be obeyed. And you read in there, if you're going to err, you should err on the side of caution. Man standing up telling you, here, I'm standing here telling you I'm the Son of Man. The scripture says, and it's written, Son of Man, I do send thee unto them. We sent no messenger, but that he should be obeyed by Allah's command. But just like with anything, you seek to condemn, by trying to look for some fault in the sun, you trying to condemn the sun, and condemn not, that you be not condemned. And that's all written. Judge not, that you be not judged. Because I didn't come to look for wrong in you. I found you, all of you are wrong. I don't have to look for it. I was in it with you. I don't have to tell you that all your religions are false and filthy. Look at the world around you with all these churches, all these mosques, all these synagogues. Look at when Prophet Muhammad, who's that got their phone off mute? What's the number? Put his phone back on mute, and if he unmute it again and don't say nothing, then we're going to put him out the room. I don't need to hear you breathing in my ear. So the Son is, as the book says, the messenger, he said it like this. He said, Allah did not make the Son to be understood by you and me. No man know the Son but the Father. To understand is to know. He said, it's a light put out there and it don't revolve around nothing but God himself. And that is, you notice, when you start talking to me off the top of your head and I ask you where's that at in the Word of God and you can't show it to me, I tell you, we ain't got nothing to talk about then. I bow to the Word of God. I don't bow to you. Well, coming in here giving me your personal opinion about, well, I don't care nothing about your personal opinion. What is your personal opinion to God's Word? What does it mean? It means about as much as your personal opinion when you walk up there to the Supreme Court talking about, I don't think this law is the right thing here. I don't think it needs to be. And they tell you, well, that's the law right now, mister. You better call your congressman or somebody and ask them to change it. But as it stands right now, that's the law. Huh? And your personal opinion ain't going to change nothing. So, so when I read the Holy Quran with the knowledge that I had in my head from the time I was a child of the Bible, I started having thoughts I had never had before. And the Honorable Elijah Muhammad knew that. That was his job, to raise me from misunderstanding, a dead level. If someone, why do we say, we use the term, you hear that in Masonics, you know, the Shriners and the Masons, they use that kind of talk. I have never been in either one of them, but I have heard people that were in them talking, and they will say that they were raised from a dead level to a living perpendicular. You'll notice a flagpole is perpendicular to the surface that it's planted on, right? That's what perpendicular is. It's at a 90-degree angle to the surface that it's on. If it's put upright, you put a 90-degree square next to it, the pole would make a perfect corner there. As you put the square on the ground or next to it and put it there with the pole, the back of the square would be flat on the surface and flat on the pole. Do you understand? Okay. When things die, they all go parallel with the surface of the earth. They fall over. Trees, flowers, plants, animals, and man. You see. And so we have been misled, mistaught. Now, to get back to that scripture that I was sharing with you, and I'm going to tell you something else. Every time you interrupt me while I'm in a train of thought talking with you. You just block yourself from learning something that Allah had gave me that I was about to share with you. And maybe he didn't want me to share it with you because it was something I was finna tell you that I guess he didn't want me to tell you right now with your rude self. When Allah's messages are being recited, the Holy Quran says, you remain silent and listen to its recitation. Don't no teacher like to hear no noise going on while they talking. You go into any classroom from elementary all the way, I used to get swats for running my mouth in class. Teacher standing up there talking, I'm sitting back there with some of the fellas kicking it. And all of us, the teacher would stop and say, hey, come up here. And I learned to keep my mouth shut. But I also learned something about teachers. Especially since I've become one myself. The teacher don't mind you stopping them by raising your hand or getting their attention. But they do mind you making noise while they're trying to teach. So, you know, you can't take a strap to grown people. That's why the scientific community said I gave him a good tongue lashing. You insult grown people by taking a whip or a belt, a strap to them, talking about you gonna whip them. That's an insult. No, beat them up there in the head with the truth. That hurt a whole lot more than a strap. You know, when somebody getting on you about something you did that you know better than doing, then they get on you and embarrass you about it. That teach you a lesson. So, over there where the Holy Quran, the 17th chapter, and you go to the, tell you in a moment. This is the 7th verse. If you do good, you do good for your own soul. I know that don't make no sense to you. You always talking about what you did for somebody else. Well, that's generally somebody who doing good to be seen. And you know, people do that, you know. They get ready to do some good and they call the press. Come over here, watch me. And they say, see? But if ain't nobody looking, their next word is, well, what's in it for me? So the Holy Quran goes along with what Jesus said. If you do good for your own souls. And if you do evil, it is for them, your own souls. So when the second warning came, we raised another people, that they might bring you to grief, and that they might enter the mosque as they entered it, the first time, and that they might destroy whatever they conquered with utter destruction. The first part of that is what I wanted you to hear. So, I'd like to go to the root of things. Show you not just what's said, but why it's said. And so, when Jesus was saying that you resist not evil, in other words, do not evil for evil. Otherwise, it's like seeing if your house is sitting next to somebody and their house catch on fire. Generally, the fire department got two jobs, depending on how close that house is to yours. They got two jobs. To keep yours cool while putting theirs out. Do you understand? So they'll be shooting water on your house as well as there, on the side where the fire is. Because they don't want it to catch fire. That's why we had our old saying when somebody would be clowning, we see two people clowning, and the one that seemed to be the amicable to or receptive to listening, you could say, hey, be cool, man, just be cool. What is that? What be cool mean? Don't let the rage that's in that person spread to you. Do you understand? So you just be cool. Because as you are raging, the greater the rage, the less the ability to be rational. Die in your rage. You lose the ability to see your way out of a situation when you become enraged by the situation. Do you understand? Okay. So you learn to be cool. We are so man being a creature of habit, that's just another way of saying that it is what you practice habitually, what you do every day, that begins to shape you into the person that you are or that you become. You are a creature of your habits. You see? You keep on getting up every morning, drinking you some whiskey. You get in the habit of getting up every morning, drinking you some whiskey and getting drunk. Pretty soon, you become an alcoholic. You are the creature of what you've been practicing, of your habit. So if you want to be the children of your Father, then which is in heaven, the mind that the messengers of God had was not a mind to war and to make war and murder and kill and bully people and do unjust things to people. The mind that was in them was a mind that, as they wanted men to do to them, that's what they did to men. You see? That's the way of peace. You know? At the same time, you notice nobody never said what comes after the turning the other cheek. The Holy Quran answered that too. The Holy Quran said, uh, persecution is worse than slaughter. You see? And retaliation is prescribed for you in the matter of the slain. You know, when you see people trying to take your life, you don't stand there and let that happen. Retaliate. But don't you be the aggressor. You don't aggress on, don't you start it, in other words. You know? If a man smites you on your right cheek, you have no alternative but to turn the other one to him. You see? A righteous man, he is strongest in righteousness. His good outweighs his evil. A wicked man, his right is his evil. His strongest side is his evil. You see? So we have a lot that we need to bring you into the knowledge of, to show you that being righteous don't mean being at the mercy of wicked people. We're only at the mercy of God. We're not at the mercy of these people. I don't care how many guns and bullets and bombs you have. I'm not at your mercy. You know? That may give you a false sense of superiority, but that don't cut nothing with me. Excuse me. The one thing about not having it in your heart to harm people, it does something for you that you'd never understand. And especially when you know how to harm people. When you go around not willing or not wanting to harm anyone, it helps to remove the fear from you. Because when you don't have it in your heart to do harm to people, you don't find any reason in your heart that people should want to do harm to you. So you don't have to be paranoid. You see. Most people that would do harm to you, they always got it in the back of their mind that you're going to do something to them. Because they judge you by the way they are. Do you understand? So, that's a terrible way to have to live your life, always wondering if somebody planning on knocking you in the head, or got to walk around with bodyguards and all that kind of. No, I don't want to do that. So, I don't make people think that they got to fear me doing them anything. I don't do nothing to you. Leave you alone. If you tell me you don't want to be bothered with me, I'll leave you alone. That's what I do. So, I was just reading this First Amendment here, Now, you know, religious persecution. You know that. You remember when all the priests had to do was accuse somebody of being a witch and they could murder them? Boy, that was some terrible stuff, wasn't it? They call that the Dark Ages. Oh yeah. So they know one of the First Amendment to the Constitution was Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion. Huh? Don't be coming up here telling us what a religion, making a law establishing some particular religion for somebody. Huh? Or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. In other words, what people worship is their own private business. As Jesus said, you pray to your Father in secret. Huh? Religion is not something that you do to put on a show. Religion is not something that you compel people to do. You all please excuse me. I got this sinuses here. I reckon. That's what it is. It's borderline. I ain't made up my mind what to call it yet. Whether it's a cold or sinuses. So, but either way, I know you ain't gonna say nothing because you get some. So don't look crazy at me because I get them. So it says, Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof, or abridging the freedom of speech or of the press or the right of the people peaceably to assemble and to petition the government for a redress of grievances. You know, some of these things, they have overstepped their bounds in. You know, if people are assembling peaceably, you don't have to send no police dogs over there and police over there spraying them with, I remember that Wall Street, what they called it? Occupy Wall Street. If they wasn't hindering people from going in there conducting business and whatnot, then why you need to spray them and go on? You know, the problem with the people is that they done forgot this is the government of people. You know why you get so many unjust people in the government? It's because you didn't take George Washington's advice. George Washington said this. He said, of all the dispositions and habits which lead to political prosperity, religion and morality are indispensable supports. And any man who would claim the tribute or claim that he's a patriot who labors to subvert or undermine these two pillars makes that claim in vain. No, you're not a patriot. The mere politician, equally with the pious man, ought to respect and cherish morality and religious principles. A volume could not trace all their connections with private and public happiness. Let it simply be asked. Ask yourself this question. Where is the security for property, for reputation, for life, if the sense of religious obligation deserts the oaths of office? You notice most of the oaths that people take end with, "So help me God." Huh? He says, how would you, he's asking you, how would you like to be sitting up under a judge who thinks that he don't have to answer to God? What is to prevent him from leaning against you, not because of evidence, but because of his private opinion of you? A just man is what it takes to be a just judge. You understand? George Washington knew that. There's no such thing as an unrighteous just man. An immoral just man. That creature don't exist. And how can you expect a man who has no consciousness of the evil that he does to others? His conscience does not convict him. How can you expect him to be just? For the only people whose conscience bother them when they wrong you is someone who believes in God. You can say all that, you can talk all that talk all you want. It's just like this thing, don't make the mistake of thinking because I said that a man should be free if he want to marry another man, if that's what he want to do. He has the right to do that. Because you can't legislate. That is a true statement. You cannot legislate morals. You cannot legislate religion. Those are affairs of the heart of people. And each person has to legislate that within themselves or answer to the Creator. And we all gonna answer now. I wasn't told to go to the world and forbid them and make laws that they can't do wrong. I was told to warn them that the things that you're doing, God gonna punish you. He gonna judge you for that. That's what he told me. If you don't hurry up and repent, be sorry for what you did and change. Now, if you decide that you ain't gonna change, well, okay. When I see it happen to you, then don't come to me. All I'm gonna tell you is, did not tell you. Because you ain't gonna be able to come to me no way. Because once Allah's wrath, once He decide He's on you, He put up a barrier where you can't, we can't come to each other. I can't aid you. No, when I was trying to aid you, you didn't want to hear it. So, George Washington, this was his farewell address. To the nation. Most people don't even think about what the term farewell means. I mean, that's a wish that your life goes well. So, I wanted to introduce a guest, and first is Mr. Cliven Bundy, and you hear all kind of things in the news, and I know what sound bites will do, and Mr. Cliven Bundy is a rancher in the state of Nevada, and he does not ranch on federal government's land, and he says, and I quote, "I have no contract with the United States government, and I do not recognize the federal courts as having anything to do with my state grazing rights." And that's what Mr. Cliven Bundy has said. And I want you to know, Mr. Bundy, that you have not come to a bigoted arena. And if you want to care to explain your position, it's just like they said you was a racist. So you can, and I beg your pardon, sir?
I see, I appreciate that. I'm on the phone here with you now, so.
Yes, sir. Do you want to go on and introduce yourself other than what I just did? Feel free to do so, Mr. Bundy.
I just missed out on you. I just barely took hold of the phone, so I'm not sure where you're at. Am I live now?
Yes, sir. You're live now.
Okay. Well, thank you. This is Cliven Bundy. I live in Clark County, Nevada, in America. I'm a rancher here on the Nevada deserts, and I've been having lots of problems with the federal government, and the problem is basically over jurisdiction. Who owns the land? Does the federal government own the land, or does the sovereign state of Nevada own the land? And that's sort of where we start off today.
Okay, now, I'm not going to pretend or presume to know more about the United States government than you do, but I would, when you say the sovereign state of Nevada, to me, that means that it's separate and apart from the rest of the states. How do you?
No, I don't. It don't mean it's separate and apart from the rest of the states. What it means, it's separate and apart in itself. That it can make its own rules and regulations, just like every other state could. Nevada come into statehood under the equal footing doctrine of the original 13 states. So Nevada has equal representation in, say, Washington, D.C., and it also has its sovereignty, which means it has boundaries around it, state lines around it, and the people inside of those state lines have the sovereignty to make their rules and regulations, just like every other state has.
Okay. So I'm also curious as to you say you don't recognize the federal government?
That's the question. I don't understand why people think I don't recognize the federal government. I recognize I pledge allegiance to the United States of America. I think the United States has the very best and Constitution on earth, and I believe that I live in America, but I also live in the sovereign state of Nevada. So in other words, I'm just like you. If you live in New York or wherever you live, you live in that sovereign state of New York. I live in the sovereign state of Nevada. I do recognize the United States government as having limited powers and having certain property rights according to our Constitution. And I even recognize our federal government having jurisdiction and authority over certain issues in the United States District Courts, which we have at the United States District Court of Nevada here in Las Vegas, Nevada. And there's no doubt that the United States has some jurisdiction and authority in that court. But what I'm saying is they do not own this land here in the state of Nevada, and I do not ranch on that land. I ranch on the land that belongs to we, the people of the state of Nevada.
So am I to understand that you've already paid the state of Nevada the grazing rights, and all you're saying is that that you don't want to pay twice?
Well, what I'm saying is really the argument is you got the United States government saying they own the land and that they have the right to charge fees for that land. And I'm saying they do not own the land, that the state of Nevada owns the land. And if I did owe grazing fees, it would be paid to the state of Nevada or Clark County, this Nevada. Now, you don't understand that when I pay grazing fees, I'm not paying grazing fees for grass or pasture. I was only paying grazing fees for management, for Bureau of Land Management. That they were trying to manage my ranch. And about 20 years ago, what they did is they was trying to manage my ranch out of business. So I said, I'm not going to pay you to manage my ranch out of business no more. And so I haven't paid them grazing fees for 20 years. And I don't feel I owe them grazing fees. I haven't used their management. I've did all of my own range improvements, and I ranch on Clark County, Nevada land.
What has the state said about it, Mr. Bundy?
Well, the state hasn't said much of anything about it, but I abide by all of Nevada state laws. In other words, I abide by their grazing as a valid livestock business within the state of Nevada, which Nevada has some laws and good laws. I abide by Nevada stock water laws. I abide by Nevada road laws, and I abide by Nevada property right laws, which would be my range improvements. And then I have one other right that I abide by, and that would be the people of Clark County. I have access, along with other we the peoples, to use this land for recreation, hunting, fishing, camping, just sightseeing, and coming out and enjoying the fresh air. You know, I share that right with all the citizens of Clark County, Nevada.
Well, I'm gonna tell you, I never like to get involved as far as arguing with someone about things that I'm not knowledgeable of. You know, on the news we hear sound bites, and for instance, I heard the sound bite where they said what you said about something else. I can tell you about the Negro, but I know the conversation started somewhere other than there. I was just curious. You know, I mean, we need to have in this country a open and honest discussion about race and racism.
You know, that's exactly what I've said about it. I think it's time America has an open discussion about race. That's actually a quote from myself.
Well, Mr. Bundy, that's one of the things that we are in total agreement on. The problem is the only time you see the average news reporter or government person talking to black people about race is someone that they know cannot really articulate for us because they are afraid.
Let me explain and see if I can explain. I might mess up here and get the
That's all right. Take your time. I ain't gonna let you mess up.
And I sure don't want to get in trouble.
You're not gonna get in trouble. This is not this is not CNN, and this is not none of those who play one against the other. This is honest conversation, brother.
Yeah, I don't even mind getting in trouble because my intents are good. So if I get in trouble, it's not because I intended to get in trouble, and I don't think it's because of my ignorance either. Let me tell you how this came about, the race thing. You know, I'm a fighting for liberty and freedoms, and I'm fighting for our Constitution to be interpreted right, and I'm fighting for freedom and liberty for the individual, each individual, and each individual I feel is very, very important. Not only to we the people, but I feel like it's very important to our Heavenly Father. And I think it's very important that our Constitution of the United States actually was written and considering the individual person. And so what I'm doing, what I got into here is I'm thinking, okay, here, Cliven Bundy, the rancher, and we the people, we're moving forward here on this freedom movement. And we're basically gaining quite a lot of ground here, and everybody's excited about that. You know, we've made a stand against the federal government, and we're tired of their abuse, and we're tired of their guns pointing at us, and we're tired of this and that. And so then I'm thinking, well, what about the African American? And I think about what about the Mexican? And I'm thinking, what about these people? They don't seem to be into this movement. I mean, this is a freedom movement, and their freedom is just as important as my freedom. And I feel like that they should be involved here a little bit. And so then I sort of asked the question about why these people are not here in this freedom movement and why they're not really progressing. It seemed to me like they're not progressing like our Constitution says they should be. And then the question is I'm wondering. That's what I was saying. I'm wondering, why aren't these people progressing? And then I go into a little further. I said, why are they aborting their babies? And why are they young men in jail? And why are when I drive through Las Vegas, I see this, and I see the older people on the porch, sitting outside the porch, and they got young people, and they don't look like they're very happy to me. And I'm thinking, what's wrong here? These people don't seem to be very happy. They don't seem to be, maybe they're not as happy as they was when they was living where they had chickens in the yard and where they had a garden to plant and their men were working. It seemed to me like maybe there's something wrong here, that those people were happy in that situation, and maybe they're not so happy in the government subsidized home and in the ghettos. And I just I don't understand everything, but I'm a wonder. I'm a wonder. And then I want to go a little further here. Then I'm wondering about Martin Luther King's speech and what his dream was. And then I'm wondering about Mrs. Park, and she's got in the civil rights days, I was a young man during those days. I know what all went on. I actually was involved in the Watts riot. I was there when that happened, so I had a little experience about this civil rights uprise. And then Mrs. Park, she took her rightful seat at the front of the bus. And I thought that's a great thing. She took her rightful seat at the front of the bus, and for 20 years she sat in the front of the bus in her rightful seat. And that's just fine. But is that what Martin Luther King's dream was? His dream was that she should be able to sit in any seat in the bus. That's what his dream was. She should be able to sit anywhere in that bus and feel comfortable. And my thought was, hasn't the government sort of put you people in your proper seat in front of the bus? But have you really got your liberty and freedoms and be able to exercise life and love each other and marry each other and have kids and all of that thing like Martin Luther King's dream was? That's what he had for everybody, not just your race, but he had that dream for everybody. And I have that same dream for everybody in the world. I think that's what he was talking about. He didn't want her to sit in front of the bus. He wanted her to be able to sit anywhere in that bus.
Well, I can't disagree with that. I mean, I mean, if you're being charged, since we were being charged the same fare, we should have been treated the same. And that's what many people, it's just like with yourself, Mr. Bundy. People in the media, politicians included, especially many of those who don't like the idea that President Obama is president. They would like to see this thing blow up during his administration. And they wanted it to come to people losing their lives, to make it look like the first black president of the United States. And by the way, if Mr. Bundy, if you put on a different suit of clothes, that does not change who you are, does it?
No, it doesn't.
And neither me. If I put on a white suit, I'm just a black man in a white suit. And if you put on a black suit, you're just a white man in a black suit. Likewise.
That didn't change either one of us, did it?
Yeah, right. And if all of us went through the educational system of America and grew up in America, just like when you said about Watts, I grew up in Watts. I went to Jordan High School, Markham Junior High, and 96 Elementary School. And I was there. I was 15 in 65. And so I was in high school. But the point is, the people in this society, they try to keep us at each other. The ones who are in authority have used us like pawns. To this day, Mr. Bundy, maybe you can answer this question for me. How much money? I mean, if America can give $3 billion a year to Egypt, $3 billion a year or more to Israel, and all of these billions of dollars being sent outside of America to aid other nations, and still making it here, how much money does the American government collect in taxes daily? We don't know. I know I don't. I can't speak for you. But
I don't know either. Let me.
Well, don't the people have a right to know? For how can you determine? How can anyone determine how much abuse or stealing or misuse of the American taxpayers' money? And everybody in America pay taxes, men, women, children, everybody. Every time you go to the store and buy something, you get taxed. So
That's right.
Don't the people have a right to know how much money the government takes in? Then there can be a greater accountability of where the money is going and whether or not what they're saying is true about the deficits and all of these kind of things, that we don't have the money to pay the deficit. We don't know how much money coming in, so we don't know how much we got.
Well, we don't. I tried to think this out, and I haven't got it think that thought out yet. But I said, okay, what's wrong with America? What do we need? And one thing we know we need some more freedoms and we need some more liberty. And one thing we don't need is more depression. We don't need the federal government down our throat. And we don't need them saying no, no, no. And we don't need them crashing down on us anymore. And, with my situation, they actually come and had a couple of hundred guns pointing at my family and my friends. And that's not what the federal government's supposed to be doing. And what I'm trying to say is we need some liberty. We need this federal government to be put under control and quit abusing us. Quit abusing all of us. We're tired of that. And we're tired of paying the bills, all these bureaucracies that are getting so big that they actually have their own army now. And, your people deal with this every day. I deal with it. All of America deals with it. And, even around the world, they're tired of this federal government pushing things down their throat. We're tired of that. We want some freedom and liberty. And we want to be able to go out and earn our own wages and develop our own families. And we want to be able to dream a little bit. We can't dream in America no more.
Well, I want to say this about let's clear the air on this one thing. Are you a racist, Mr. Bundy?
No, I am not a racist. And I actually believe that in these days, in these latter days, where we're having we're having the problem with the media. You know what I've discovered? I've discovered that I'm the same as you people, and I mean, as far as I'm concerned, there's not no difference in our color. I think our needs are the same. I think all of the people in the world's needs are the same. We need to be loved. We need to feel some security. We need to be able to have some a dream to be able to go forward. I think it's very important that we have our family ties. These things are not things that I want. These things are what everybody in the world wants.
Well, I'm going to tell you something. When it comes to, it's just like one thing you've manifested one thing that has proven to be true about where black people and white people stand in relationship to how the government does its business. Because if you were a black man doing what you were doing, you'd have been dead now. If those,
and I can appreciate that. I realize that, and they had their snipers out here. In fact, I'm still in danger, and I understand that. In other words, what they don't do is they don't put up with you black people at all. They have put up with me for a while. I don't know how much longer I can live.
Well, I don't see nothing that you need to be killed for. No, I don't see nothing, no reason why you need to be killed. And if your ranch is in, excuse me for calling your ranch a farm, if your ranch is, if you barely keeping it afloat right now, then if anything, we need to be trying to figure out a way to help assuage this by maybe raising the money and paying it and getting that out the way. I mean, we could do that. I don't want to see no bloodshed, especially over money.
Well, I don't either. But this thing is not over money. The BLM and the government has made this thing sound like it's over money. This battle is not over money. It's over who owns the land, and not over whether Bundy owns the land. It's whether the state of Nevada owns the land or whether the federal government owns the land. That's what the battle's over. And if the federal government owns the land, then we're all whipped. I guess they rule with unlimited power. But if this truly is a state of Nevada, a sovereign state of Nevada, and everything within their borders belongs to the people of Nevada, that's what our Constitution says. Then if we are a sovereign state of Nevada, then the BLM and the federal government has no jurisdiction or authority here, and I do not owe them any money, and their courts are basically moot, because they have no jurisdiction and authority in their courts over this subject. So it's not a matter of money, and it's not a matter of you people helping save my ranch. What it's a matter of is you and I. We need to fight for our liberties and freedoms, and fight for a constitution, and that we have equal opportunity, and that the federal government quits ruling with unlimited power over me here in the country, and over you people in the city. You don't need that no more. You don't need all of these bureaucrats coming down on your people with guns and putting your people in jail and killing them and all the things that they do. We need some freedom and liberty.
Well, Mr. Bundy, it's something I want you to correct me on if I'm wrong. But I know when I was in back in grade school and whatnot, they used to teach us a little bit about the way the government functions, and they was telling us about the system of checks and balances. That no, in this system of government, you have the city government, and to check that, you have the state government, and then to check that, you have the federal government, which is, kind of, for instance, when Rosa Parks, as you brought her up, when Rosa Parks was took a seat on the front of the bus, she actually refused to give up her seat. I don't know at what part of the bus it was, but she didn't just go take a seat on the front of the bus. She was sitting down and she was told to get up. And
What it's called the rightful seat.
Right. And she took her seat and refused to give it up. And it was the federal government that the Kennedys sent there, and I think the Johnson administration, they sent the federal government in to enforce the Constitution, the constitutional rights that the state of Alabama and Mississippi and some of the southern states were denying black people. And so the federal government sent troops to enforce the rights of black people. The state didn't just give us that. The states was withholding our rights, and the federal government was sent in there, troops were sent in there to make sure that the states abided by the Constitution of the United States. Because when it all boils down, no matter what the state constitution says, it is the Constitution of the United States that trumps. No state law.
That's where you got their equal right.
Right. No state law can countermand any constitutional rights of the United States. The Constitution of the United States is the check on all of the states. And so you have to have, there can be no law if there's no one to enforce it. So I don't think we should want to get rid of the federal government, but as with everybody with power, you have to remember that these power will tend to corrupt those who are corruptible. And so you have to be vigilant. There's no such thing as freedom where you go to sleep. No, so I don't say let's get rid of the federal government, but I do say that you can't just give them carte blanche over every situation. They have to have a check on them too. And so
let me try to explain that.
Okay, go ahead.
The case that you're bringing forward is a constitutional case where the Constitution says that we have equal rights, and the federal government was going to back that equal rights law up, which is a supreme law of the land, and that's exactly right. The United States courts should back that up also, and the state of wherever the state was, they should be honoring that. But let me turn that around with you on my case. remember, we're talking about the civil rights thing being a constitutional thing. Now let's talk about ownership of land, which the Constitution says that the United States could only own 10 miles square, and it to make the Washington D.C. out of, and that they had to buy that land from 3 different states, and with the legislators' approval and Congress, the United States Congress approval, and then they had to buy that land, and then they could only use that land for certain things. That's what our Constitution says. And then it says that they can buy other lands.
Could you stop for a moment, Mr. Bundy? Now, they had us thinking that we was dealing with a redneck here, and you come to find out that Mr. Bundy is knowledgeable. I didn't know what he just said. I didn't know that. He don't sound like he's out of touch with reality to me. Now, Mr. Bundy, would you go back and say how that goes again? Now, I mean, if it's someone listening that has some different information than what Mr. Bundy is sharing with us, I'm gonna look it up myself too. But I didn't know what he just said. And now go back and go back over that again, Mr. Bundy.
Okay, and you need to pick up your United States Constitution in Article 1, Section 8, Clause 17 of the Article the Constitution. You'll find that it'll tell you what land Nevada or the United States can own. The founders of the Constitution only allowed the United States to have a little bit of land, because remember what happened. The United States had been here, not the United States, America had been here for over 200 years since it migrated, the Pilgrims had migrated from foreign countries, and they'd been here on this land for 200 years, and they still didn't have what they come here for. What did they come here for? They come here for liberty and freedom, so that they could worship the way they wanted. And after 200 years, they still didn't have that. There was a central over the here in America, and they were called British. The British people, British Army, the British King of England, was still ruling in the United States before the Revolutionary War. And we, the people of America, said we're tired of not having our liberties and freedoms. We're tired of being taxed. We're tired of being foreign government telling us what to do and foreign government fleecing us. And so they fought the Revolutionary War. And when they fought that war, they won it. They won a war against the strongest country on earth and the strongest army on earth. And when they got through with this, they definitely wasn't wanting to create a large government, a central government that ruled over everybody. That's what they just got through fighting. They didn't want a large state law or government. They didn't want a large United States government. They didn't even want a large a community government. And so what they did is they said the sovereignty. That means we the people had the sovereignty. And we fought the war. We, with that sovereignty, created the Constitution. And when we created the Constitution, we only allowed our federal government to have a limited power, small power. We gave them a little bit of power, but not a lot of power. And the Constitution is to protect we the people from a big government. And so now, over the civil rights thing, you give us a very good example where the federal government stepped in and took care of a problem that was constitutional. And the states wasn't abiding by the Constitution. They wasn't treating we the people like they should, and so the federal government stepped in. Now, in my case, it's where the federal government is claiming something. They're claiming land here in the western United States that they do not own. And by the Constitution, there's no way in the world they can own it. And yet we have a government that's come up on me as a rancher with army trying to prove that they own this land. And I'm saying, no, you don't own this land. The Constitution says you don't own it. We the people says you don't own it. And we're tired of you pushing this around, and we're not going to put up with it no more. We're not going to allow you to stick your guns down our throat anymore. It's like Mrs. Park said, "I'm not going to move to the back of the bus anymore." And that's what Bundy said. I'm not going to let you push me around anymore. And so that's
Mr. Bundy.
that.
Mr. Bundy, I think you having the same thing happening. It look like somebody from the state should have informed you of what's really going on. Because I think what was done to your land there, to the land in the state of Nevada, is something similar to what was done in the little town of Fayette, Mississippi, and that is the state, the city government turned the management of the streets in Fayette over to the state so that the city wouldn't have to take care of paving the streets and that kind of thing. And so now the main street in Fayette is actually not a city street now, even though it's in the city. The state is the one. Now y'all correct me if I'm wrong. I know Brother Robert know a lot about that. But the city done turned the management of the downtown streets over to the state. So now instead of stoplights, they got stop signs. And the state of Nevada made some kind of deal with the federal government. They had to. They done made a deal with the federal government, and watching this play out, when they could have came in, and they need to come in and inform the people and inform you of what's going on. Because they playing games, man. They playing games with you.
Yeah, let me tell you something. That's, if I'm going to be mad at somebody, I say I'm going to be mad, and I say I'm going to make a lawsuit, or I'm going to get even. That's however you want to put it. I won't be trying to get even with the United States government. You know who I'll be trying to get even with? I'll be trying to get even with my governor. All he had to say no to this action, and it was stopped.
Hasn't he been strangely quiet?
Yeah, very strange and quiet. And my county sheriff, I said, they asked where my county sheriff is. I said, he's hiding under the table. Well, my county sheriff's supposed to be out here protecting my life, liberty, and property, and he's hiding under the table down in Las Vegas.
They done did these deals. They done did these deals behind the closed doors. They ain't informed the people what they done turned over, what properties they done turned over to be taken care of by the federal government. They hear you fussing, which is what they should have been doing.
Well, sure.
And yet they would stand there and watch you get shot down.
And the only reason that I didn't get wiped out, the only reason I didn't get wiped out is because we, the people, heard the abuse and the cries of, and they gathered around me, and the people crowded the BLM out and their guns and told them to get up the road. And the people took and opened the gates and brought my cattle home. The people did that. I didn't do that. My county sheriff should have did that. The governor of Nevada should have stopped it before it ever got to that point. Nobody did help me out except we, the people. And the other people that helped me out, as militia showed up, and they backed up the people. And other than that, these people went before those guns without any arms, and they went before these guns with only their faith and their prayers, and they was able to push this government away and out of here. And now we feel some freedom and liberty. I'm able to start running my ranch like it should be run, and things are really feel good now. But then what's the next step? What's the big government going to do next to Bundy? That's the question. What are they going to do to me now?
Well, I hope that President Obama and his administration continues to show the restraint that they have shown, because you really sound like you caught up in something else, into some political schemes that people got. And I'm glad that the president did not fall into that. And
well, I am too. And the thing of it is I'm happy he didn't too. And I really believe that we've had a lot divine interference, or not interference, support here.
I know what you mean, divine intervention. Just like at the beginning of America. George Washington was riding in front of men on a big white horse, and all them bullets was flying. His horse didn't get touched, and he didn't either.
And with protection, and one of the things we've felt here, I want to express to you, there's lots of prayers. A lot of people's prayed for my family and for this cause all around the world. And I have felt them prayers, and I've felt the strength, and I've been able to stand and talk and go forward. And I only want to thank the people, and I want to thank my Heavenly Father for these blessings. And I'm humbled because of the support and the blessings of me and my family, and not only me and my family. All of the people that stood with me. There was a couple thousand people here at one time that was standing with me. And that's where my strength comes from.
Mr. Bundy, I want to say this to you and all of those who are with you. Don't lose sight on like we did in the Nation of Islam when the Honorable Elijah Muhammad was here. There were people in positions of authority in the Nation of Islam that didn't give less. They could give less than a tinker's damn about us, and we were so busy looking for the devil outside that we didn't see the devil's inside.
Yeah.
And there are a lot of people who tried to use this situation with you as a catalyst to tear America apart.
Well, I know.
Don't let happen to your country. Don't let happen to your country.
Yes.
What happened to the Nation of Islam.
Yeah. And that's why I'm not scared to say, I'm not scared to talk about this civil rights thing. I'm not scared to have a discussion with anybody in this country or in this world. It's time we do discuss this. And, just like you and I have discussed it, it's a good time to discuss it. We want something better, and we want to have a better life for our families and our children. We want a better future for America. And if we have to discuss these things every day and every night, we'll do that.
And I'm going to tell you something else, Mr. Bundy.
We're not going to give our liberties and freedoms up, and we're not going to give our Constitution up.
I'm going to tell you something else, Mr. Bundy. What I got out of what you said, this may anger some of my people until they really think about it. But in one sense, at least when we were in chattel slavery, we knew that we were in slavery. But for the game that's been ran on my people, to have us enslaved to false ideas and to satisfied with nothing is a worse slavery than we were in before. Because now we in it and don't know it.
Yeah, and what's bad is the federal government has enslaved you and took your hope away. Where's your hope? Where's your hope? Where's your hope?
We don't even think we need to be free. How can you hope for something that you think you already got? And so that's one of the something else that, just like this conversation we having now, I hope that we can talk more and have our ongoing dialogue, Mr. Bundy. And I wish you and your family well, man. And don't you all let people use your animosities and create distrust between. Remember, the government of America is the government that the people elected. If you want a better government, it starts in the school. What needs to be taught in the schools is how the government functions. What is the duty of politicians when they get elected? For if the child comes up through school being taught that politicians, like did you watch the Republican what did they call it when they came together and Clint Eastwood was standing up there speaking? The convention. Well, you remember when Mr. Eastwood said, he said to the people, he said, politicians work for us. They are our employees. The politicians that get in there now, they don't consider themselves employees of the people. They are employees of whoever gave them the money.
Yeah, and then they that's true. They're bought off, and then they want to act like they're the king.
Yes.
They're not the king. They're our servants. And this is what I say about the BLM. I said, you're not the king. You're not the army. Take their guns away, and they should be acting like Boy Scouts. They should be out there helping we the people, and they should be doing a good turn deedy for we the people, and they should be serving them. We pay them wages. We pay their retirement. We pay their health and welfare.
And they don't want to see you with nothing. That's the sad part.
I work for it.
Look at what happened with this affordable health care. Me personally, I don't see nothing wrong with those who are. It's just like car insurance. Since everybody has to have it now, it's much cheaper now. I don't see nothing wrong with that. I don't see nothing wrong with everybody as we had I mean, when I used to play football on the B team, and when I was in the Marine Corps, it was all for one and one for all. Whatever happened to that?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm not gonna on the one hand say I wish you well. The Bible says if your brother is destitute of food, clothing, and daily bread, and you say, be ye warmed and filled, may God bless you, and you don't give him those things that he have need of, what profit is it?
Yeah,
you don't just wish a person well. While I'm wishing you well, I'm gonna make sure that I give you something to show you that I meant it. Because all of us gonna get old one day. It's no person on this planet that is an island unto himself. No person on this planet is above need of other people. And until we learn that, out of all these years that the United States has been a beacon of hope, and you can't say, I know people mad at me now, but America has been a beacon of hope to every other country.
Well, sure, and it's time that we've actually took the opportunity away from our people by sending, you know how they've sent all these manufacturers and all this business overseas?
Yes, sir. Don't worry, they coming back. They gonna come back or they gonna lose everything.
Because they regulated us so hard.
They gonna come back
or
they gonna lose it all. Just like all the money they take out of the country and put in foreign banks so they don't have to pay their lawful taxes on it. They gonna either get it back here or they gonna lose it. And so, God is just, man. And just because we don't believe in him, if you say, I ain't never seen him, you ain't never seen the mind that's in you, but you don't say it don't exist.
No, and I think it's our turn to start being America again and start developing our country and start creating jobs. And somehow we've got to give all of these people opportunities to work and to make a living. What about our families? All of these people need opportunities to have families and be able to enjoy their kids, and we need that future. We don't need to be locked in their jails and
that's right.
All of those people need an opportunity to get out here and work and raise families and love each other. And we have to do a lot of forgiving each other and all these things. But that's all happiness when we're out here doing those things.
Well, I agree, Mr. Bundy, and I see that kind of world coming in. I mean, there was a time when you and I probably couldn't even have this kind of conversation. But we having it now, and we're discovering that we have a lot more in common than we have in adversity.
And I see a future also, and what I'm able to see is I'm starting to see the good in the individual. Each individual soul is worth a lot, and I'm seeing that good in that individual, not as a community, but as an individual. And I think there's hope for us people here on this earth. I think there's still a good future, and I think that there's hope for us all. And I sure hope that, people like you are able to help this world be better every day. You've got an opportunity to speak to people, and I can see just by speaking to you tonight, you are doing a good work. And I think you're encouraging people. I think you're making people have hope, and that's what I'd sure hope to support you in that. Yeah.
Well, I wish you well, and like I told so many times, I'm through playing these skin games. I mean, we all are of the same family on this planet. There ain't but one family on this planet of men and women, and that's the human family. And every one of us is part of the human family, and we need to.
We're all part of the human family, and we come here we're created equal. Our Heavenly Father wants us to have the same opportunity. He wants us to come down here and have a body, and have the opportunity to have some liberties, some agencies. What we're wanting to say. Our Heavenly Father wants each one of us to have our own agency, so we can choose from right and wrong. And if we're not able to choose, then that's not His plan. He wants us to choose right from wrong, or whichever way we want to choose. But He wants us to have that opportunity, and we have to have some liberties and freedoms in order to do that.
So I'll have to go back to George Washington again. He said that you need to enlighten your people. If you're going to have an elected government, and people are going to choose things, then people need to be enlightened so that their choices will be made based on understanding and enlightenment, and not on somebody manipulating them by keep on telling them a lie over and over until they believe it.
Well, we have an opportunity here in this country in the next few months. We got this midterm election coming up here. This is our opportunity. As I was just hearing today, every one of the legislators in the United States legislators, in the United States Congress, are going to be replaced in the next few months, and something like 30 senators are going to be replaced. Well, this is our opportunity. Let's don't replace them people. And they'll say believe in the Constitution of the United States. And they'll say believe in freedom and liberty. Unless they believe in equal rights. Let's don't replace those people if they don't believe those things.
I agree. I mean, that is the remedy to crooked government. No, don't kill them. We don't need to be up there trying to hurt them people. Take them out of office. Vote them out of there.
Throw them out. And
that's right.
We got between now and November 2nd or something like that. We have time to do that. We need to wake up and find out which ones of these people are going to uphold that Constitution and these rights and liberties and freedoms. If they don't feel that way, let's replace them. We have time to do that, and we have enough people to do that.
That's right. We should put people in the government, in the lawmaking body, and in every other body of this government. We need to put people in there that reflect the United States of America. I mean, the very name United States of America is, you wouldn't think you was in the United States of America when you visit Congress and see how they acted. It's us against them. Since when did it become us against them? I mean, I'm not trying to undermine decency. I'm not trying to undermine justice. But it's time to undermine and overthrow ignorance. And anytime I tell you what, Mr. Bundy, anytime you feel like you have something that you want to share or whatnot, our forum is open to you.
I appreciate that, and you know, there's things that we can talk about. You know, there's the experience I had in Watts. I would like to tell that story on your program sometime.
Okay.
And
Well, I grew up in Watts, so I'm you know, the niggas, the guard, Jordan Downs, all that. I grew up there.
How old was you when you lived in Watts?
I moved to Watts back in 1953. My mother and them moved out to California from Leland, Mississippi, and I grew up out there. I went to kindergarten at 96th Street Elementary School, and I went to Markham Junior High School and Jordan High School. And a matter of fact, when I was in elementary school, they had me on the Art Linkletter house party.
Yeah, I remember that.
Yes, sir. That don't go on no more, but you know.
What was that called? Something like what the kids would say, or what the things the kids would say, or something.
Yeah, now they call it this. Kids say the darndest thing.
Oh yeah, that's like.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, Mr. Bundy, it sure is nice when you know, the Holy Quran said this. It says, when an unrighteous person brings you news, and then that's just anybody other than a prophet of God, it says, look carefully into it, lest you harm a people and then regret what you have done.
Sure.
And talking to you in this forum and not listening to a bunch of sound bites, you don't even sound like the same person. So
I'm sorry about that. I've told this story over and over, and I've tried to relate to the people of the world. And I did this time and time again, and yet it seems like my personality, my real belief, my feeling in my heart never gets out to the people in the world. And that has to be a media that is changing my thinking and the way I try to express myself. And I don't like that, but I don't know what we can do about it except to talk to people like you, and it gives me another opportunity to express myself. And but I do want to tell the world that I'm not prejudiced, that I have actually gained a lot of love for all the people, and especially you people. I have experiences that I feel like that. Well, I just want to tell you that I feel like you're equal. What else could I tell you? I feel like we're all born that way, and our Heavenly Father expects us to die that way.
Well, when the one thing all of us need to learn is that you cannot legislate love, but if we just learn to respect each other, then respect and love, they are almost twins. They're just not identical twins, but if you look at a person showing another person respect, it looks like love. And if we just start doing that with each other, treat others like you want to be treated. I mean, I wouldn't appreciate, like I told you, I didn't bring you in here to walk you into no disrespectful, bigoted arena. This, I wanted to hear you for myself. That's the only way for me to make a determination about what kind of person you are, is for me to meet you. Not go by what somebody told me. Because, that's what's got the world in the shape it's in. He said, she said, instead of seeing it for yourself. And, I haven't found any disrespect in you. You can find, I'm going to tell you something. People, the same way that our bodies pass gas, we pass gas. I don't care if you're the president, I don't care if you're the congressman, I don't care if you're the son of man, you pass gas. And if somebody walk behind you long enough, they're going to hear you pass gas. And likewise, if someone put a microphone around you long enough, they're going to hear you, they're going to hear your mind pass some gas.
Yeah, that's right.
And so we don't, as Solomon told me, he said, give not heed to every word which is spoken, lest you hear your servant curse you.
Sure.
You know, I mean, I don't jump and run every time I hear. Your own wife have said things that she shouldn't have said. And you done said things to her you shouldn't have said.
Well,
And then you said, I wish I hadn't said that.
that's true, and
Okay.
that's one of the things that I realize is we all have to forgive each other, you know, and I've said this over the air. I said, you know, we have to forgive our wives, and our wives have to forgive us, and our kids have to forgive each other. And, you know, we as people, we have to forgive, and once we forgive, that makes this a better world, and it makes us happier. At least that's one thing we could do, is forgive each other and go forward,
Yes,
be
sir.
happy.
And ain't nobody telling you have to forget, but you can forgive.
That's right.
You know, I mean, and forgiveness is not for the other person. Forgiveness is for you, so you can get on with your life.
Sure, and that, you know, I stop and think about what our Lord was trying to tell us. You know, he wasn't saying we need to forgive for him or forgive for our neighbor. He was telling us to forgive for ourselves so we could move forward.
That's right.
He said,
That's right.
That's what it's all about. It's not for anybody else except ourselves. And he said, no matter what they do, he will deal with them. What matters is what you do. And we're asking, actually commanded, to forgive everybody. And how many times did he tell us to forgive them?
Until 70 times 7. And I say forgive them as often as you would like our Lord to forgive you.
Yep, that's true, Lee.
You know, I mean, we done all offended God. If God paid all of us for how many times we done offended him, it wouldn't be nobody left on the planet.
No.
So, you know, I'm not here to help create more confusion and division. If I look at TV, you know, quite a bit, and I used to like this series called The Twilight Zone, and I heard on one instance of it, it was a man about to commit suicide, and they showed some of the students that he had taught. He was a professor, and he was thinking that what was the use of him living, for he hadn't accomplished anything as far as he was concerned. And then he was in classroom getting ready to blow his brains out, and the ghosts of some of his students appeared to him and began to tell them about this one had won the Medal of Honor, and this one had became a great inventor, and all of these kind of things. And by the time they were finished, he realized that his life had meant for something. He had helped people, had made some changes in people. And he was standing up in front of this statue. And in the inscription, it said, "Be ashamed to die until you have won some victory for humanity."
Sure.
And we all could learn something from that. We all should be ashamed to die if we haven't made this world, did something that makes the world a better place for human beings.
So, you know, and I hope that you and I have helped do that, or helped make a better world tonight. And, you know, I have a question for you, and it might be a little bit hard one here.
That's okay. Ask. All I can do is say I don't know.
What can we do? What can we do to help people to have a better life and have a better government? And I know you've talked about we need to elect some good candidates and vote them in. We know we can do that, but what can we do for those who need hope? What can we do tonight?
We've made a good start right now. Instead of jumping on every word that we hear coming off the television, we need to remember that that's just a few minutes that we seeing out of a person, and we are making judgments about that person. Learn to look deeper into things before making up a decision. Get enlightened before making a judgment. And
You're watching W33BY,
Just a minute, Mr. Bundy.
Park, Michigan.
Okay, we about done?
We can go on. No, we're not through. We were at the top of the hour and they had to do a station ID. But what we are doing right now is helping to put an end to racism. I mean, once we really realize that there's worth in all human beings have something to contribute to the betterment of the human family. And we just, go ahead, what were you about to say?
Isn't it interesting that each one of us are individuals, and each one of us think different, we look different, and our minds work different, and yet every one of us have something to do to better our this country, to better our families, to better people in general. Every one of us has talents, and some of us think, well, I don't have no talents, but we do. Every one of us has talents. Every one of us has something to do with this human family, and how great it is. How great it is to see somebody that can sing, or somebody that is a poet, or somebody that can draw, or somebody that can invent something for us, somebody that grows the food. That's one of the things I do, is I feel like I have it's a pleasure in order to produce some good beef for America, and that's what I do. And I'm producing this out here in the desert, no dry desert. I don't run very many cows per even section of land, but I still produce something that's good for humans to eat. And this is exciting life for me. It makes me feel happy and feel good. And everybody needs to be able to feel that. Everybody needs to feel like they're worth something, and everybody is worth something.
And I'm going to tell you something else. Until we get more people in government that understands that a human life is never expendable, is never an acceptable loss. And whenever you have leaders that considers the loss of any person's life as an acceptable loss, you got the wrong person in charge.
Well, and they take the hope away from us by making us all feel like that we're not needed, and they make us all feel like that we're not doing a good enough job, and we're not paying them enough money, and we're not honoring them enough, and on and on and on. They have all kinds of ways to depress us and make us feel like that we're nothing. But we do know that we are something, and we are very important to our Heavenly Father, each of us individual, and we need to understand that. And I don't know how to express it more than the fact that I guess I would have to, this would be something I'd basically ask every person on the earth. If you just get on your knees and ask your Heavenly Father, am I worth something? I'm sure that every one of you would get an answer.
Well, I bear witness that there's no such thing as a human being that's worthless. And if there's any royalty, you hear people all the time talking about the royal family or this, that. If one of us is royal, all of us is. Because we all from the same blood. We are all from the original man. So,
I've thought of
we
this,
should act like
this a little bit. And this is the way I thought of it. You take a dungeon with a lonely man in the back of the dungeon, and is his soul any less worth? Let's say, let me put it right. Is his soul worth less than the King of Kings up on top of the mountain in his palace? Is his soul is that man up on top of the mountain in his palace? Is he worth more than the man down in the bottom of the dungeon? Not to our Heavenly Father, not to our Lord. His soul is not worth more. It might be equal, but it's not worth more.
That's right. The scripture teaches you that. It says the Son of Man came not to destroy men's lives, but to save them. And he came to seek and to save that which was lost. And so, you know, until we understand that man's greatest harm has been to his fellow man. You don't judge your righteousness by how you treat your friends. You can judge how righteous a man is by how he treats his enemies.
Well, sure, and that's true.
You know, it's easy to smile and grin and go on with somebody who agree with you, but can you be accommodating and kind to people who disagree with you?
And I think that's a great test. I know, that's a great test for me.
That's for us all. That's a test for all of us, Mr. Bundy.
Yeah, if I'm sad and mad, can I really treat that person right? And can I be just with him? And can I tell him I'm sorry? And can I treat him like he's equal? I mean, that's a test for all of us, but we have to pass that test. We have to. It's not that we're not going to make mistakes, but we have to realize that that's what it's all about, is how we treat each other. And that is our test. That is our test.
So you all just remember, the God said, "Thou shalt not kill." We don't have to solve our problems. If killing each other would solve the problem, it should have been solved a long time ago. Because how much killing have man did to his fellow man? And yet the problems are still here. Reasoning solves problems, not murdering each other. So again, I hope that you all will soon be able to sit at the table of reason. And the governor of the state needs to come down and talk with you and explain him to you what has really taken place in that state. You know.
And I would welcome that, and yes, I do believe that. Like I said, I believe the governor of the state of Nevada could have said no to this a long time. But here we are. We're here to learn, and we're here to be excited about our experiences here on Earth. And this has actually been a good experience for me. It's because I've been able to talk to people like you and be able to talk to your audience. I have no idea how many millions of
you all on YouTube now. This is on YouTube. It's in Detroit, and we're in a conference room that holds 1,000 calls, and I don't think it's 1,000 people in it, but it's.
There is 1 moderator and 82 participants on the call.
That have been created for me, and of course, and all I can do is be thankful that I'm able to stand here and visit with you. It's my pleasure to be able to express my belief and my Constitution and my God, and of how I feel about my fellow man. And it's an opportunity to challenge we the people of this United States, and we the people of this world. Let's be better. Let's do better. Let's forgive each other, and let's go forward. Let's elect some good candidates for our offices to fill our government. And not only our government in the United States, let's make sure we're filling our government at the home at the county commissioners and our state people. Let's get some good people in there. Let's turn this world around, and let's turn our government around to where we really do have equal rights and where we really do have some liberties and freedoms, where we have our agency to choose. Let's get back to that type of government. We deserve that here in America, and people all over the world deserve that same thing, that they might be able to exercise their own personal conscience. That's what we need to be able to exercise. That's the blessing I would want to leave on this world this night, is what we might be able to do that and be able to find some happiness, find some hope. Don't be giving up. Don't be giving up on your husbands and your wives, and don't be giving up on your family, and don't be giving up on our government. We have the best government in the world. Let's just try to make it better. Let's try to make everything better. My grandma used to tell me she'd say we all could do a little bit better. And so quote that again, we can all do a little bit better. And I think that she is right. I think we all can do a little bit better, and I hope that's where we start from today, and we do a little bit better tonight, a little bit better tomorrow.
Well, Mr. Bundy, that's actually what the scripture says. It says it in other words. It says, we look for a new heaven. It says, seeing that all these things will be dissolved, we look for a new heaven and a new earth, wherein dwelleth righteousness. And that's what's coming. I mean, people who believe in right, they have hope. You see it coming. People are leaving governments and countries that refuse to allow them the freedom to think and speak and act, as long as those that they are acting and not harming others. You should have that freedom. How do you know the righteous from the wicked if you forcing everything on everybody? A righteous man is not righteous because there's laws. A righteous man is righteous because that's what he wants to do. You see?
And I have a quote from, I think, Ezra Taft Benson, and he says that we should not be commanded in all things. Well, what's he talking about? Well, we need to do something on our own. The gospel, the church, the state, the government, they shouldn't be telling us everything we should be doing. We should be doing something on our own, not be commanded in all things. We ought to be able to think about something good to do ourselves. And we ought to have the opportunity to think and exercise and not be commanded. That's what we're sort of talking about tonight here, is we're tired of being commanded. That's communist type of a government. That's, I guess I could even go so far to say that's the devil's kind of government. He wants to force us how to do things and what to do and how to be. And of course, he said he'd save us all. But that's not what the Lord said. He said he wants us to come and have our free agency, that we can choose good and evil. And that's the kind of government we have. We want to be able to choose, and we don't want to be commanded in all things.
Well, I'm in agreement with the fact that we, as a, it's just like when people disagree with laws. That's just like when people disagree with laws. There's a proper way to go about changing it, and overthrowing the government is not one of them. You get with your Congress people, and you get the Congress to change the law. And that is one of the things that made America able to go so long, 200 years, and never again a civil war, or the people rising up to overthrow the government. You don't have to rise up and overthrow it if the government recognizes a medium by which you can get rid of things that you don't like. That's one of the unique things that this government has shown us. That when you give the people a means to redress whatever grievances they have with the government, then they don't have any need to try to overthrow it.
No, and that's one of the things our Constitution gives us that opportunity to have representation. That's what they call a republic form of government. We have the opportunity to have representation, and those that represent us should be good people, and that's our duty. We need to be electing good people, and then we shouldn't have to have no revolutionary war or we should be able to. Our Constitution allows a way to take care of this, and if those people don't take care of it, then we have problems. Just like we're talking about, we have a government that's overwhelming and too powerful. If those people don't take care of that overwhelming government, then we need to elect some new ones, and our hope goes with them that they will take care of some of these problems. And
And remember,
you know that
it starts when
that's what our Constitution is so great. It was the inspired Constitution, the greatest Constitution on earth.
and remember, it goes all the way back to education. It's time to remember to teach the young people in school what is the duty of elected officials. That way, when they get up there, they don't have to try to figure it out. Because if they got to try to figure it out, there's an old saying, if you don't know where you're going, any road will get you there. And you know, when people get up in the Congress and whatnot, you think they're going to represent you when they didn't have the slightest clue of what the job actually was. So when they get in there, instead of being a part of the solution, they become part of the problem.
You know, the greatest text we have is just a little teeny book, and it's not even very big. You can read it, you know, anybody can read it in a very short time. Anybody can study it, and that's our Constitution for the United States. That's a blueprint for these leaders to follow. It tells them how the government's supposed to act. Tells them how the government's supposed to, what powers the government has. It tells them how our state governments and our county governments are supposed to act. It tells us people what rights we have. You know, it's a great document, and yet we don't even act like it exists. We don't teach it in our schools. We don't teach it in our churches. We don't teach it even to our congressmen. We don't teach it.
Are you surprised? Are you surprised that they don't teach it? Anybody that want to mistreat you, anybody that's not planning on, anyone who's not planning on treating you right, or if they're not planning on taking misadvantage of you, if they are planning on taking misadvantage of you, I should say, they don't want you to know what your rights are.
Sure, that's one last thing
You know, I mean, so, you know, I mean, if you know what your rights are, you know when they're doing wrong.
That's right.
So we need to make it mandatory, not just in one grade level, but throughout the educational system. Everyone who is bound by the Constitution of America should have a thorough knowledge, which means you should teach them the Constitution and teach them what this government is about and how it functions. That way, when you elect someone to go up there, they know what the job that they are supposed to do, and they know that they are there to serve and not to be served.
Look at this, you know, we have trouble. We have a hard time trying to find a good candidate to go represent us. Well, you know, every person in the United States ought to be a good candidate. If it was taught right, we'd all understand these things. We'd all be wanting these things, and we'd all be willing to go serve. But the way it is, we can't. Just like we looked the whole United States over trying to find a good candidate for a president, and we can't seem to. Nobody seems to stand out. Well, if we all understood the Constitution, every man and woman should stand out to be qualified. So that's the difference of what I'm saying. We can't find one, and yet everybody should be one.
That's right. At least if you enlighten the public, then people with the most money wouldn't be able to buy your politicians. Because no matter how much money they spent, you and I would know how to question people and listen to people's arguments and listen to them argue in front of us, and we'd be able to make an enlightened judgment about who's best qualified and who's not, and not just someone browbeating us about, just like the people put false advertisements and sound bites about what you had to say. They do that with politicians.
You know, that's exactly what politicians do, and that's exactly what the media
Yes.
does too. And, I mean, well, I don't know what we can do about it, but the thing of it is,
Get enlightened.
we got to enlighten. We always got to tell the truth. And when we find somebody that's telling the truth and understands this, then we need to get behind them 100% and push them right to the office where in the offices of our county, state, and federal positions where they can be some good for we the people. Remember what they're supposed to be doing. In a republic form of government, they're supposed to represent us. They're not supposed to go there and represent the money that puts them there or their fellow politicians or their self. They're supposed to represent we the people. That's the only reason they're there, is so they can represent we the people.
And they know that. They know it. But they have dumbed the American people down so much that the people don't know. It's just like what they did about allowing the people who are rich to put as much money in elections as they want to, and calling it freedom of speech. Justice Scalia knows better than that. He knows better. You don't want your politicians to be bought and paid for.
No, they can't represent.
You know?
What the Lord said something about you can't serve two masters. If you go to one master that just paid several $1 million to get you elected, then the other master is we the people. Who's he going to serve? He can't serve two masters.
He's already bought and paid for. And Grover Norquist told him that. He got up there and said, we don't need nobody to tell us what to do. We just need a man in that office that's got good dexterity, that he can sign what we put in front of him. So they want to turn the President of the United States into a figurehead, into a rubber stamp. And he had nerve enough to stand up and say that publicly. Now, what does that tell you they think about our intelligence as a nation of people?
That's what the President of the United States is. He's in a position to put his signature on things that he feels are right, and he can veto things that he don't feel right. That's why it's so important that we have a man there that's got some morals and got some and that he actually feels like he's doing the right for the people. If that man's not, if we can't relate to the President of the United States with that quality, then we're better off not to having a president, I guess. We're just better off to just be a communist country and let a king rule us. We're not going to stand for that. We're going to have to back up our president that we have, hoping that he does as good a job and follows the right spirit of things and follows his conscience. And if he would do that, he's just as good a president as we can get. We'll honor him and respect him and pray for him and hope he does a good job, because what's the next plan going to be like?
Well, I'm glad that this President Obama, ain't bloodthirsty. I'm glad that he didn't allow them troops to go and shoot y'all down. And that's good. You don't murder your own citizens. We see that stuff going on over there in Syria. No, you don't murder your citizens. You reason with your citizens. That's what you do. No man, I mean, you got family, you got children. It don't get to the point where you want to murder them. They don't care. They get grown and you fall out with them, but you don't want to hurt them. You don't want to kill them. No.
Like I said, everybody has problems. I think that's something that maybe I think everybody understands that, but sometimes there are people that think I'm the only one that has problems. No, you're not the only one that has problems. We all have problems. That's part of what our life here on earth is all about, is problems, and solving those problems is part of our challenge. To making those problems better, that's part of our challenge. But every one of us has challenge. I don't care what it is. We have family problems, we have financial problems, we have health problems, and even I have government problems. But you know, we all have problems, and we got to be able to say, well, today is our problem. Tomorrow we're going to make it better. And I think it's our job to help each other too. It's just, it's like you and I. I think we need to help each other with our problems.
I think that's a good note to finalize that on. Yes, we need to learn to help each other. If we cannot, this is what we need to make a promise to ourselves on. If I cannot help you, I will not hurt you. Either help or leave them alone. And if we learn to do that, the world will be a better place.
It's like a mad dog fight. Don't jump in there and try to get one bite out of the deal. That's a terrible thing. And that seemed like that's what our media did with me. They want to jump in there and get one more bite, one more piece of hide. I don't think that's right. That's not the way we're supposed to treat people. Let's try to say something good about them and try to build up their spirit and try to help them. And that's what I hope I am able to do, and that would be my intent to do with all the people of this world, is try to help them and be sure to try to lift them up, not put them down, but lift them up. And I really think that this world is a great place to live. There's great people here, and I mean, there are beautiful people here. And it don't matter where we live or how we live, there's hope that we have, hope to be better. And like I said, I want to quote my grandma again. She said, we all could be better. And that's what I want to leave you with tonight. And I sure thank you. Thank you, world. Thank you, America. And thank you, individuals.
Well, I thank you, Mr. Bundy, and I wish you and your family well. And I hope that this situation will turn out for you, and that something can be worked out that is agreeable to you and the government. And let's pray for that. And may God continue to bless you, you and your family.
Freedom and liberty is not free, so we're willing to sacrifice a little, and we're willing to stand and I thank you for this opportunity, and let's say good night.
Yes, sir. May Allah bless you and your family and keep you safe.
Good night.
Good night.
Bye-bye.
You know, brother and sister, oftentimes we make judgments, as I've told you so many times, on hearsay and half-truths. You know, the one thing about, as I was telling you, you find in the South, you notice when Mr. Thomas Robb was in here, he was honest about his feelings. He didn't have to bite his tongue and go through all that foolishness. People that will be honest with you about where they stand, that's the person that you can have a honest conversation with. Not somebody who say one thing in your face, and then minute they leave, and somebody asks them about it, well, I was just being nice. That's not. No. That don't get it. Men are men. You know, everybody that's a male is not necessarily a man. You see? Just like many of those Republicans, they was trying to use Mr. Bundy. They was trying to use him, and Allah didn't let it. They didn't let it happen. So they let him say some other things that made them show that they was just trying to use him. You know, I mean, that man ain't really got no dog in the hunt against us. That fight with the federal government been going on with him since '93. And if it had been another president in there besides President Obama, they probably would have killed that poor man. But no, and the governor of the state could have came and told Mr. Bundy what the deal was. But he ain't said a word. He's gonna make it look like the federal government overstepped their bounds when it was the state that turned that land over to the federal government. Just like the city turned that main street over to the state. Here you thinking you own a city road and it's a state road now. Huh? So now let me hear from those who think I should have did something different than I did. You always got to hear from people who disagree with you. I don't get no kick out of beating up on people just because you in a position where you might be able to. That man old as my daddy looked like. I don't know how old Mr. Bundy is, but I'm pretty sure he's older than me. And I wouldn't, you have to be careful how you talk to elder people. And so if you invite a person into your home, you should make sure that you respect them as long as they are in there by your invitation. You get to the point where you feel like you can't respect them, it's time for you to ask them to leave. And you don't disrespect them then. You see them safely out. You understand? Okay. Just like this stuff they trying to, the Republicans in Congress, and I use that term loosely because Abraham Lincoln was a Republican and he wasn't nothing like that. Not according to the history I know about it. They call themselves Republicans, but the crooks sitting up there trying to suggest that somehow the President of the United States and his administration somehow could have did something more than was done in Benghazi. And somehow it's their fault that Ambassador Stevens and those other 3 Americans got killed. When they know better. How in the world can you hold an administration responsible for what happened in another country? You can't send your army in there. You're their guest. If you're going to hold anybody responsible, it should be the Libyans. So, it's just because he's a black president. But that did Mr. Bundy and those people there. That was a good thing as a black president in there. Because you saw what happened to the what's his name? David Koresh? The Branch Davidian people. And they, it's just good that it happened under a president that has a heart. I wouldn't have expected President Obama to go for that. To go in there and over $1 million taxes. You're gonna what? murder a bunch of folk, murder a bunch of people. Them people no match for the American government, for the Army and the Navy and the Air Force and the Marines. You don't use your own army to murder your own people. You don't do that. And he said this when he was inaugurated, when he won the election, I should say, that those who didn't vote for him, he said he will try his best to be their president too. Do you understand? You know? So I just have all of the respect in the world for President Obama and how he has conducted himself. He and Vice President Biden. And I think it's very disrespectful. Not that I have something against Miss Clinton. I don't have anything against her. But I think it's very disrespectful for them to talk about the next election and not mention Joseph Biden. I mean, he's already proven that he can be president, because when President Obama picked him as a running mate, nobody could say nothing about him. You know, I'll grant you that he has a little more fiery temperament than President Obama, but I don't think he's, as they say, a loose cannon. I think he's shown that he has some self-control. You know? And so, you know, but it, you know, time brings about changes. I should say time manifests the changes that people go through. So, did any of you have something you wanted to ask me before I let you go?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
I was thinking while y'all was talking, you think this might be a good idea? What if we see if we can get get Mr. Thompson and maybe the retired colonel that you had talked to before to come back?
You say get Mr. Thompson and the retired colonel?
To come back in here, maybe they could tell us who they feel would be good to vote out of Congress, and maybe they could have some suggestions of who we should vote for, since they.
Well, the thing is, it wouldn't do a whole lot of good, because you know, there's certain people you couldn't vote for anyway. So, but I think that may be a thought. Maybe I will invite some of them in again to share their thoughts on the candidates. You know, we have to, you know, if you, you know, not that I'm trying to be immersed or melted into this system of things. I'm not here to be melted into this system. But I am here to try and bring about healing. The scripture says, the Son of Righteousness shall arise with healing. I mean, in order to heal this government, you must start in the educational system. You have to educate your people. You have to educate the people, truly educate them, and not program them. I mean, you want the people, you want your government to be elected, okay. Then you need to make sure that those who elect people are enlightened. You must raise the quality of your education. Where is most of the money spent? That's how you know where the priorities are. Most of the budget in America goes to military. the least of the money goes to the education. And that's rightly so. Because as long as you keep the people's minds on the level of babies, then taking their money is as easy as taking candy from a baby. You notice Mr. Bundy don't know how much taxes is taken up either. Don't none of us know. But they crying broke. But ain't nobody telling you what actually, what's coming in. We know it's a lot of billions and stuff going out. And if you got that kind of sent out, well, how's it going out? Well, if you send Israel some jets and whatnot, each one of them jets costing $4 million or so many millions of dollars, and every time you send one off, then you got to replace it, right? And so the people who manufacture those things get paid some money. That money is going that way. It's, you know, you look at all of them people over there around the world. Those people who you saw in Africa that ain't manufacturing no guns, where they getting them guns from? From the ones who manufacture them, right? Russian made and American made. So, look, it's time to wake up. And, you know, the forces of nature are going to help me wake you up. Wa alaikum assalam.
You wanted me to remind you about letting people know about not parking on the street?
Oh, yes.
Or
Look, since you all know that people are so distracted driving cars now, and they talking on cell phones, texting and whatnot. It don't make no difference how many times you put it on that on text while you're driving. People texting. So if you got a driveway, I would suggest you park your car in your driveway. And that's what I would suggest to you. Because you got these people going up and down the street, rolling and ain't looking where they're going. Yeah. Talking and texting. And rolling 70 miles an hour. Yeah, I'm just telling you. You know, be wise. Park your car on the street and watch people. And whenever you on the highway driving, if you see a truck, either stay behind him or get on past him. But don't you ride in that on the side of that truck. You don't know what that driver doing. You know, so yeah. Drive defensively. That's all I'm telling you. All right. Anything else that I told y'all to remind me to say something about?
Excuse me.
Yes.
Allah, salam alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
I would just like to know, how did it come about that the guy Bundy, Mr. Bundy, was in the class tonight?
We found him.
Oh, you called? Okay.
Yes, brother Jamar. That's how Dr. Cosby got in here. That's how Congressman Thompson got in here. The editor of the Son of Man Speaks called him up and asked him to come to our class. And they consented. They consented to come.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. I mean, one thing about it, it's nice to formulate an opinion of people based on your own dealings with them rather than some hearsay, huh? You see? Yes. Yes, caller.
Allah, salam
alaikum, son, man.
Wa alaikum ala salam. You need to talk up, son.
Okay, I'm sorry. Allah salam alaikum, son, man. How are you?
Wa alaikum ala salam. I'm not complaining. And yourself?
Oh, I'm good, sir. Thank you very much. I didn't call to break up the class. I just wanted to ask a small question about. I was listening to the news. I was listening to the news yesterday, and they.
Would you please talk up, brothers? Hey, talking in the phone.
I'm sorry. Can you hear me now?
Yes, that's better. Now keep it there.
Okay. I was looking at the news, and they were saying that the Pope said something about praying for Martians. I was just wondering.
Praying for what?
Martians. Aliens, Martians, outer space, whatever. So they were saying that everybody needs to pray or something about Martians, and I want to know from you what are they talking about?
Brother, I don't know nothing about no Martians. No, sir. I don't get me into that.
But I did hear on this journal of Farrakhan.
You need to talk up, brother. We can't.
Journal of Farrakhan on the radio, and he was saying that he went to Iran and Iraq and Libya, and on his trip there, he had the light come up on the side of it.
Wait a minute.
Can you explain?
No, brother. You have to ask Minister Farrakhan about that.
Okay.
I mean, I don't, you know.
He had said, this is what I'm saying. After that, after he said all about that, he said more so said, he is that Son of Man that Elijah sent. And I'm like,
Well, in the first place, Elijah don't send the Son of Man. That's the first place. I'll show you what I'm talking about here. Now this should help you, help anybody that wants to be helped. So y'all give me a minute here now. Let you see what I'm talking about. Now I want you to listen to this real good. And remember, Minister Farrakhan was sitting in there listening to the messenger. WD was sitting in there listening to the messenger. All of the ministers that was in the nation and was up there on the stage in 1975, picking W. Wallace up and putting him on their shoulder, they was in there listening to the messenger. Now listen to this.
Say to me or ask me before I leave to stand, you're welcome to stand up and ask. Yes, brother. I think, brother, you better come up closer. My hearing is not as keen as it used to be when I was young like you. I could hear a long way off. Sir, you said something about that you would have to go and have one of God's names. And I was, I think it's about maybe 4 or 5 years ago that I noticed a lot of friends of mine start naming their children after certain Asian names, you know, and I would like you to clear up whether that's no good, you know, and that you have to get a name from God. Is that... Your name can be named one. And that's what you can get. I can name you. He's not going to take the name away that I give, but I don't want to be so smart to take over the naming of the people. I do know his name. That's the names that you have to be named. but I expect him here pretty soon. And I don't want him to come and find me taking over his job. That you have to be named. But I expect him here pretty soon. And I don't want him to come and find me taking over his job. But I expect him here pretty soon. And I don't want him to come and find me taking over his job.
Now, you heard the messenger say this in 1972. If he was expecting somebody there pretty soon, they wasn't there yet. Minister Farrakhan and all of them was already there. So don't come to me telling me that you think Minister Farrakhan is the Son of Man. And Minister Farrakhan have never told Minister...
I'm just saying that's what he said.
Well, like I said,
So I was wondering.
you just heard the messenger say different. So what is there further to talk about on that subject? All right, you now, Minister Farrakhan, if he thought he was the Son of Man, he could come in here and straighten me out. As the messenger said, if you think you know Allah better than me, come get up here and let me question you. Certainly, if he thinks that he's the Son of Man and I'm not, then let's see here. Let me let you hear this too.
That is why we have a day of judgment to test all of these things that people claim to believe in. Allah says in His Holy Quran that on the judgment, if you bring a God up besides myself, you will not be able, in words to say, to win. And no God, he says, but I am Allah, the best knower. I am Allah. Think over that. If you want to make a spook out of me, look at me good. I'm not a spook. But I am Allah. And I stayed with him, and he taught me for 3 years, 4 months, night and day. If you think you know Allah better than me, come get up here and let me question you. Think you know Allah better than me, come get up here and let me question you. If you think you know Allah better than me, come get up here and let me question you.
Now, if Minister Farrakhan or any of you out there think you know Allah better than me, you come in here and let me question you. That's the way you do that. And if they don't do that, then shut up. Because I'm not running from you. What are you? Wait a minute, brother. Are you talking to me or are you talking to somebody else? Okay, now then talk into the phone so I can hear you.
Can you hear me good now? Can you hear me?
That's a little better. Now stay in the phone.
Okay, I'm sorry. I know you are.
No, you don't know I am.
Well, I'm saying
You can say you believe I am.
because of the way you have been handling the individuals that's been set forth to you from the Blue Blood Class guy, the guy talking about the Cosmos, Dr. Tyson, Bill Cosby, those two, it was some guys that, and then you handled some Israelites when they asked you about the mother plane, and you just gave them a few what it should be, and I'm not against you. I'm loving everything that you do.
All right, then that's. I want to talk to the people who got something that they think is against me. You all who agree with me, I don't. You know, I don't like you to just call up just to tell me you agree with me.
Well, sometimes it's good to still talk to me. That's how
Well, I'm definitely talking with you, and in the hereafter, those who accept and follow me, we will be walking and talking with each other all the time. But right now, I'm interested in converting people. I don't need to convert somebody who already believes. I need to convert somebody who don't believe, which means let's let the people who disagree come in here and tell us why.
If I have a question that's of me, then I figure you can answer for me. So that's how I would.
Okay, well, I don't have no problem with you all asking me questions.
That's exactly what it is. When you get a class, it's supposed to be just like you say, that's 101%. So just what you're talking about. I agree. It's a great class. I had that.
Well, it's. Well, look. Stop listening to other people label people and all of that kind of thing. Lucifer don't mean what people think. Lucifer simply means light bearer. It's like the Holy Quran, instead of saying light bearer, it says their parable is that of a jackass carrying books. Iblis, that's another name for the devil. Lucifer is just one of the names for the devil. Just because I'll show you an example of Lucifer. When you teach a baby the alphabet, well, the baby can say the alphabet, but he don't understand what he's saying. You see? And the scripture teaches you that the Son of Man shall be delivered into the hands of sinful men. That's why it was said in Revelation that the Lamb took the book out of the hand of him that sat on the throne. Up until I got here, you had people arguing about what the scriptures mean. Now that I'm here, you notice ain't nobody in here arguing about nothing about what it means. You can't argue with the truth. The more they try to argue, the more bigger fool they make themselves look like. And so they don't come in here to argue with me on that. Okay. Now, wa alaikum salam. And may Allah bless you and your family. And unto you. Now, did anyone else have something they wanted to ask me before I let you go?
Again, tune in every Sunday at 12 noon here on TV 33.
Well, if there are no more questions, then I guess ain't nobody mad at me because I didn't go off on Mr. Bundy. I like to make peace with people. I don't like fighting folks. And especially when you don't know if you need to be fighting them. Huh? Looked to me like he was set up. Looked to me like the governor of the state saw that situation and didn't diffuse it. For Mr. Bundy says that he considers that to be state property and not federal property. Then why don't the governor come out there and tell him that they relegated that property to the state? I mean, why didn't the governor come out there and tell him that the state relegated that property to the federal government? How come he didn't tell him that? You see my point? You know, they creating that mess. But there again, the president and his administration deserves credit for not overreacting. Because when it's all said and done, the truth gonna come out. Since when do something go on in the state and the governor don't know what's going on? Especially when the federal people come out to one of the citizens who owns a ranch there. If the federal government was wrong, why didn't the state come in there and say something? Because the state had turned that land over to the federal government. Now, obviously, they didn't even let the citizens know. Okay. But anyway, and so Mr. Bundy come away looking like the heavy there. Huh? Yeah. So we, you know, that ain't like what you saw there on, what's the name? On that Mr. Sterling, Donald Sterling. Donald Sterling, out of his own mouth, let that venom come out of there. You know, I mean, this is the culture, he said. What? That's the way the Romans did. Their gladiators were their slaves. He can't say, I own these players. He say, I own the team. And then you got to correct that and say, I own the franchise to this team. Because you don't own people. And here these people sitting up trying to suggest that if the athletes don't want to play for a man who has manifested that he hates them, that he manifested his racist mentality. He even said he feeds them. He clothes them. He gives them houses. He do this. As bad as that woman that said these my $2 million niggas. I mean, and you supposed to want to, you what? If they decide they don't want to play for him, you want to sue them? Yeah. They're talking about LeBron James and them, that's easier said than done. No, it's not easier said than done. We're not your property. You might think that I'm your slave. You better think again, boy. All you people who can't let go of that lie that Yakub taught you, you better think again. My name ain't Jacob. Jacob was your Lord. But you better go back and read what it says. I am the God of Jacob. I'm the God of Abraham, the God of Isaac, and the God of Jacob. That's what the Lord told Moses. And he said, I appeared unto Abraham and unto Isaac and unto Jacob by the name God Almighty. But by my name, Jehovah. I was not known to them, and by his name Allah, he was not known to us. Now we find out God got a lot of names. Jacob is my brother, he ain't my Lord. I want you to know that. He's your Lord, he ain't mine. I'm his. Why you think he told you when it's remember the Sabbath day? He said, remember the Sabbath day now. That's what you remember the little nurse, the little fairy tale, Cinderella. What did she tell Cinderella to remember? Remember midnight now. Because that's when everything going back. Is that right? He told them, remember the Sabbath day, to keep it holy now. You can do your wickedness all these 6,000 years, but in the Sabbath day, rest, stop. You know, just because you tell me that some white man said something hateful about black people, you don't make no judgments for me about whether or not I should dislike somebody. I'll make that judgment myself. After talking with him, you know, they just caught him saying some stuff. You know, so I mean, after I talked to him, he didn't sound like he's no racist to me. Didn't sound like no redneck either. Huh? The last time you knew a redneck that was up on what the Constitution say? So I'm just, you know, so the only way that the federal government could own that state land is that the state relegated it to them. But they ain't told Mr. Bundy. You understand? That was one of them under the table deals. So you know how it goes. Stuff goes on behind closed doors among rulers that the ruled don't know nothing about. So that's you know, any of you that have information that could clear up any misunderstanding that I may have. I'm not like so many other people that, you know, I've already told you I don't know how this government really, all of the intricate details. I can only go by what is apparent by what I see happening. Nevada is a sovereign state. Then if there's federal lands, then the state relegated that to the federal government. Otherwise, the governor wouldn't be going for it. Huh? So, wise up. It's time to wise up. It's time to know the truth. Okay. I'm going to let you go. I done held you long enough. May Allah bless us all and keep us safe and in our right minds. And if it pleases Allah, we will talk some more Friday. I didn't want to tell you at the beginning that Mr. Bundy was going to be in here because I didn't want nobody calling him up, poisoning him before he got in here. You understand? You know, they'll do that. You know, people, oh, you don't want to go in there. And no, this is right where he need to come. At least he can get justice in here. So, So may Allah bless us all and keep us safe and in our right minds. Allah's salam alaikum.
Your conference recording has stopped.
Hey, mister.